Hello there. Right, good evening to you if you're watching in the UK or surrounding islands. So we're going to be doing a live review / reaction to the new Run the Jewels album. It's their fourth one, if you couldn't tell by the title. The title there being Run the Jewels, which is quite interesting. Okay, I just need to. I was just listening then to my own live stream, so I got a little bit confused, as it were. Right. So Run the Jewels 4. It was rush released, should we say? Should have been due out on Friday, but they released it on the Wednesday. They thought, why wait? Basically, there's no point. This album needs to come out. We want this album to come out. So we're going to start just by looking at the statement that they posted on their official website. So basically, it's from Jamie and Mike, who make up Run the Jewels. As we know, Run the Jewels, fantastic hip-hop duo. Been keeping the sound fresh, certainly for the last 7 or 8 years. Best part of a decade. And their message here from Killer Mike and LP, their message is, why wait? The world is infested with BS, so here's something raw to listen to while you deal with it all. We hope it brings you some joy. Stay safe and hopeful out there, and thank you for giving two friends the chance to be heard and do what they love. So it's a very earnest message from them. It's a very earnest message from them. And that's sort of where I want to start. I'm hoping that this video, that this stream, will be quite fun, because we are going to do what we did with Radiohead. We're going to listen to the album. We're going to talk about it track by track. Hopefully we're going to have a few laughs along the way, because I've got two friends who are going to join me on this musical adventure, this journey. I've listened to the album. I've listened to the album a couple of times now, but it's going to be fun to listen to it again, do it live, bit of a challenge for me. And I've enlisted the help of my two good friends who are going to provide their commentary and their thoughts. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat, certainly. But it's on that earnest and sincere and relevant point that I want to start. Now, I'm far from an expert in these matters, and there are better voices than mine that can articulate what's been happening recently with regards to racism, both in America and across the world. But it's within this context that Run the Jewels have released this album. They've released it as they say in their statement, with the hope that it'll bring people some joy, with the hope that it's something raw to listen to while we deal with all the problems that are going on. Obviously, I'm talking about the murder of George Floyd and the peaceful protests that have risen up against governments, people taking to the streets to protest this, to have their voices heard. In terms of where Run the Jewels fit into all of this, they have been fighting the good fight for as long as I've heard of them. And it's interesting to listen to the album, an album that was recorded many, many months, I assume, before these recent events, and just see how relevant the lyrics are, how poignant and how topical the messaging is, because that's the harsh truth about what rappers and artists have been creating and trying to signal to people for so long, is that the message itself doesn't actually change. The fact that there are people of colour that are discriminated against on a day-to-day basis, the fact that they lead different lives and have to navigate their way through the world in a different way than white people do. And it really does make you think about this term white privilege that is bandied about and fought over in terms of meaning, because there needs to be a lot of soul searching, I would say, on the part of people that just stay silent. It's not good enough just to say you are not a racist. You have to try and stand up and stick up for people who've experienced that racism from day one, for something that they just cannot change. An unalterable part of their personalities. So yeah, it's sort of rooted within this. This is the context. This is the wider context that we're going to appreciate the album in. But we're also going to look at the album in terms of the immense vocal deliveries, the gorgeous, lush, dynamic, electric production, the fire and the fury that they bring to delivering these messages, and basically the fact that this is an artist, a group that is very much needed in the music industry and in pop culture. And as we know, Killer Mike himself got involved with the recent Black Lives Matter protests, trying to talk to the crowd about how they're meant to organise themselves, mobilise, plot, plan, and protest. And ultimately, it's about doing it in a peaceful way. As the vast majority of people that have taken to these marches have proven that they are innocent. They are peaceful. They are people. They deserve a voice. This systemic racism and discrimination has to end at some point. And if you can see the screen at the minute, you can see I'm sort of cycling through some images that I found. And it's very good to see that the majority of people here aren't thugs. The majority here aren't even people of colour. It's white people that are starting to realise how the system has been rigged against black people and people of colour for many years. And it's even taken to different countries, to the UK. There are statues being brought down, even today, statues being vandalised of Churchill and famous slave owners. And you just think in 2020, surely we're past all this. Surely we're past all this, but we're quite clearly not. We're quite clearly not. So, I think it was very good of Run the Jewels to just say, no, here it is. Here's the album. Here's our part. Here's our part that we can play in terms of standing up to people. Here's our list of, here's our roster of protest songs, of tracks that are going to try and give the voiceless a voice in some way. And so, as I said, I'm not the wisest, most enlightened voice on this topic, but certainly it's something that we're going to try and consider, at least in some way, when we come to appreciate and understand the music that's being delivered. So, on that note, having said all that, let's crack on with listening to the album, because it does start, as I said, with these themes, with these ideas. Overall impressions of the album, though, just from the offset, really loved it. I know when I go to a release by Run the Jewels that it's going to be fresh, it's going to be interesting, it's going to be dynamic. That the production's going to be so rich, so interesting, that the samples are going to be like little sort of earworms that get into your head. That the effects are going to be glitchy and modern, but never feel too gimmicky. So with that, having said that, we're on our new screen now, and we're going to kick things off by listening to Yankee and the Brave. And I'm going to try and keep an eye on Top Chat as we go. Let's have a quick look before we start at this chat. Yeah, Rick and Morty. Yeah, the Run the Jewels song used for that is fantastic. It's really good. Yeah, I agree with what's been written there, that the timing of the album is very apt. But that goes back to what I was saying a minute ago about how this album really could have been released at any time. It just happens that we're at one of those points again where the same old things are happening where the same old blips on the graph are occurring, where someone is killed for seemingly no reason, where people have to take to the streets to try and convince governments, who should know better, that this behaviour is immoral, that it's corrupt, that it's inept, and has no place in a modern civilised society. Here's hoping to live through an era of equality. Absolutely, absolutely. Which is what Run the Jewels fight for, which is what they want. So let's start. Let's start by appreciating the majesty of their craftsmanship. Okay, I'm going to try and keep an eye on the chat as we go along. So yeah, let's start. This is one of the singles that was released quite early on. Track 1, Yankee and the Brave, named after their respective baseball teams, I do believe. Right. Anyway, we're going to start. So it starts with that that introduction, like it's a serialized, old-fashioned either TV show or radio show, and straight away we drive into those cranking beats. There's an interesting like industrial clank in the percussion in this song, with relentless vocal delivery from Killer Mike. Just a really nice strong start, those constant snares sort of whacking through. Yes, I agree, Liquid Jim, that kicking is dirty and beautiful. Yes, I do agree. Here's the great bit, here's that middle bit now. Just beneath LP's verse, this murky underworld, that sort of murky bed that he sings over is fantastic. It's like music from a sewer, from a techno sewer. It does not mess about, this track. Straight in. Thank you for writing my script for me, young man. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great. So, as I was saying about the timeless yet timely lyricism here, there's one verse here from Killer Mike when he's talking about the police basically being on his case or on the narrator's case, and he's talking here about if the news say if news say it's a suicide, then it's a goddamn lie. I can't let the pigs kill me. I've got too much pride. You know, this is tough stuff to try and get your head around, really, because it's not exactly promoting police violence. If anything, the police are just symbolic of the system. That they're just like the sort of gatekeepers of the. They're the gatekeepers of what the state wants to be the constant status quo. And yet, they are state apparatus, aren't they? So, are the police something to be, I don't know, opposed? Certainly the bad cops are. I've been doing a lot of reading, a lot of watching lately of things like this. Let's get to the things here. The colour purple fits this track. It sounds purple, nightclubby. Can't wait to learn the words. Yes, I can't wait for you to learn the words either. I think you should do it on karaoke sometime. I think that would be very nice. I'll be Killer Mike and you can be LP. Yeah, no, I thought that was a really, really great, strong start to the album. It's almost like they're sort of taking on different characters, is how I felt. This week on Yankee and the Brave. And then it's the two of them sort of teaming up, like almost like a superhero duo, or like an old sort of buddy cop team, where they're seemingly different and disparate on the surface, but underneath they're tough and they show togetherness, which is good. Some of these lyrics are very, very... you can't knock their humour. Always seems to sort of work. Don't wanna repeat too much of the explicits for obvious reasons. But yeah, I liked it. Good, strong, banging start to the album. I certainly believe the police have to answer to some kind of review system. Interesting. Yeah. Well, this is what it's about, isn't it? It's about accountability. Killer Mike is obviously rapping about the fact that the news will lie about him if it doesn't go his way in the track. Here's the part that stuck out to me when I was reading it earlier on. Where is it? I'm just trying to get the lyrics up. It's scammer bliss when you're putting villains in charge. All of us targeted. All we do is arguing. Pardon them as they work until every pocket's been picked and soul been harvested. That is some strong evocative poetry, essentially. I love that idea. I love that strong image that a soul is harvested. You know, the idea that we're just fodder for someone else's game, someone else's system. But yeah, a soul being harvested. Strong. Okay, right. We're going to move on to Ooh La La. Now, the video for this, before we play the track, the video was awesome. And I read somewhere a few days ago from Killer Mike saying it's amazing how we managed to record all this. Because there are so many different people in the video. They're emptying like purses, wallets, throwing all this money onto a pile. In fact, rather than just watch that one, should we try and get the video? Yeah. Okay, let's just try and get the video instead. Because that's just the audio track, and I think seeing the video might be a little bit more interesting. So he was saying it was incredible that they managed to achieve that, given that the coronavirus was just about to kick in and obviously prevent any kind of social gatherings like this. And also, if we start with this, then you can read the intro that Killer Mike starts the song off with. One day, the long-fought battle between humanity and the forces of greed and division will end. And on that day, finally free, we will throw a party. Ancient proverb, probably. That sums it up to me. That sort of sums up the style, the character of the band. Is that they're always throwing these messages of hope, of radical change at us, but there's always that little dig in the ribs, that little wink, that little glint in the eye, of like the sort of warmth and humour. I'm sure Killer Mike would be fantastic to hang out with. I remember watching a little bit of his TV series a bit ago when he, I forgot what it's called, but he was trying to sort of start society again, and he sort of he made like a little microcosm somewhere, I think in the South where he grew up, and yeah, he does have quite strong political opinions, famously championing Bernie Sanders and the more progressive side of the Democratic wing, which is great, you know. He's certainly a very relevant voice now, but he's also very fun, very relatable. I need a bottle of Moët Garçon, Killer Mike. There we go. More of that humour I told you about. Look at this. Look at this. Love this. Okay, so that, the ooh la la, the refrain, the chorus, I do feel like the ooh la la goes on a bit too long. I think it's quite repetitive. But I do like the beat. I do like the augmented piano chords. The riff's been in my head all day. I think that's a really, really clever little melody to just spin around. Check Killer out. Wearing a shell suit from the 80s. Trendy guy. Yeah, I do like it. I like the stop-start dynamics in this one. It's just automatically groovy. That's what I'm looking for when I go to hip hop. I want something that's instantly effective on your body, on your movements, makes you want to move along with it. But yeah, this chorus, I don't know. I just think maybe it goes on just a tad too long. A little bit too gimmicky for them. I used to be Munchkin. I wasn't supposed to be nothing. Great. Look, he's a philosopher, LP. Let's pause that. Let's pause that. He's a philosopher, isn't he? As we all know. I'm afraid of nothing, but nothingness ain't it something. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, nothingness is something. Because there's never been a nothingness that someone has observed. No one has ever observed a nothingness. Unless you're talking about something like Love Island. Then that is a big nothingness. Yep, I like the beat. I like the delivery. Nice and stompy. This lovely celebration of the monetary system crashing down around them. Yeah, I like it. I dig. Go on, Bernie, indeed. Oh, poor Bernie. The greatest president America will never have. What a shame. Yeah, I like this. As a main single from the album, it's decent. It's decent, but it is quite mainstream, isn't it? Let's not kid ourselves. It's quite a mainstream release, that. The album's got a few more gems hidden away. Right. Let's move on. Out of Sight 2. Oh! Click the link for your chance to win a 25 grand cash prize and support the cats. Wonderful. Here we go. Here we go. Nice. Okay, so a little bit grittier. A little bit more lo-fi. Great clear vocals, though. There's a really nice interplay off this track, the way the two voices bounce off each other. This is definitely music for cars. I think riding around with this on. The sun coming through your windshield. Not literally. That would be terrifying. But yeah. Nice. Ooh. Love it. The tones of their voices work so well against one another. Love it. It's great. This is really, really good. It's that remix and bounce. You can literally hear the scratches. Yes, you can. It's good. Apparently, I need to listen to Jet Set Radio. I've played Jet Set Radio. Oh. Just reading comments from earlier. Just letting this track run out. Very poignant with the riots at the moment. Yep, indeed. Appears to be breaking down class, burning down the money, and taking it down to all of us just being human when it's all stripped away. Yeah, I think a lot of us live our lives by our number far too often, whether that is monetary, whether that is your age, whether that's any kind of demographic. Yeah, we are sometimes far too restrained and restricted with the idea that everything has some kind of measure, not value, some kind of measure. It's like, you've got one house, well, I've got two, therefore better. You've got £100, I've got 200, therefore better. Not the case, is it? Oh, I like that comparison there. The lyrics are like two running train tracks and they switch conductors. That's brilliant. That's a great analogy. Yeah, and I suppose, especially with this track, with the frequency that they swap and exchange bars, it's like, well, if you don't like Killer Mike's vocal, LP's one's just going to be 15, 20 seconds away. Yeah, it's great. I'm literally sat on my sofa just bouncing like a child in a high chair. Really like it. See, this refrain in the chorus, this is what a Run the Jewels chorus should be like. Just short and to the point, almost skeletal. Keep the structure as bare as possible, because the lyrics and the vocal, the power behind the vocals, don't need much messing around. Don't need extending beyond their sort of natural lifespan, as it were. Okay, yeah, that was great. I liked that. Right, before we get on to the next track, let's have a quick look at the chat. Oh, well, the chat's not been updated, so update the chat, please, someone. If you can see, I'm joined tonight by Liquid Jim, available in can and bottle form, and Ant for 6. So, Ant for 6, but I'm sure he'll let you off with 5. There's more value in the soul, and by soul, I mean the human spirit, community, empathy, selflessness, heart. Liquid Jim also works at Clinton Cards, writing the messages inside them, just in case you didn't know. But I totally agree. Totally agree. So having a quick flick through some of the lyrics on Out of Sight, because I think meaning-wise I'm not totally up to date with it. Let's have a look. Nice. Yeah, I'm just having a quick look through the lyrics. Seems to be very, very communal. Bragging about sort of being quite sort of braggadocious, I suppose. There's one verse there by one of their featured artists, 2 Chainz, saying that he's a product of poverty. I slide on tracks like Home Plate, ride beats like Road Rage, got a crib in like 4 states, and I get a text like Stay Safe. I get a text like Stay Safe. Maybe his vocal was done after the pandemic then. I don't know. Just having a quick look. Yeah. Nice anyway. We don't have to go too deep on the lyrics. We don't have to go too deep on them. Some tracks obviously stand out more than others, lyric-wise. So, anyway. Pretty decent track. Right, we're going to go on to track 4. Wait. Okay. Yep. Now, I've listened to the album a couple of times, in and out, and when this one started then, I sort of... I didn't love it, if I'm being honest. I found that sample a little bit too irritating, sort of grates quite a bit. I mean, it's certainly grimy, but it's quite scratchy as well. I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'm not totally sold musically. I like the rap though. I think the rap's pretty strong. Just having a good listen now to the words. Yeah, I quite like the drum line. It's got a strange sort of off-kilter pace to it. This breakdown in the middle, very grimy. Yeah, I like the break more than I do the verse. Here we go. Yeah, that's better. This break's better. I think when I was listening earlier, it felt like several tracks, and I thought the first one was this one. I like this one. I like this. I like this part. It's much better, much smoother. Yeah, I like the odds. I like that strange female vocal that just came in there going, hello. She might not have even said hello. That's just what I hear. I will always love you. Oh. Liked that bit. You hate run the jewels, you don't love the troops. Missed the point, trying to act like it's cool. I like the chorus much more this time around. I think it's the context of that that break that's really slowed things out, stretched things out quite a bit. Just following Killer Mike's lyrics now. Yeah, so this lyric, this verse, sorry, Killer Mike's talking about his upbringing. One time in the big old South, lived a little chubby kid with a big old mouth. Lame writers gave him big old doubts. Now the same little boy in a big old house. I love it. I mean, structurally, it's a bit like a nursery rhyme or a fable. He's sort of talking about his rise to fame. And how the arduous, long journey that he's been on has been worth it. And Killer Mike brings people up with him. He's one of those people that... One of those figures that people can definitely look to as an inspiration, really. Again, going back to his political involvement, his peaceful yet firm tone. Because what he demands simply is justice and some understanding. But yeah, really enjoyed that. Enjoyed that much more this time around. Oh yeah, right. Before we start track 5, track 5's got a great name. Goonies vs E.T. When I was listening the first time, I sort of heard a few 80s references here and there, sort of splattered around. Right, let's just have a look at the chat. That clinky rattling is mint. The break is sexy as hell. Yeah, I mean, you know, it certainly changes the mood and atmosphere quite a lot. Definitely improves it. I just don't like that intro. There's just something about it I just can't quite fit into. It sort of moves around a bit too often. It's like almost oily. It's like sort of oily, yeah. The distortion on that bass bounce. Whoa. Yeah. Okay. Right, let's start Goonies versus E.T. Let's go for this one. I want to try and... It's hard for me to try and sort of pause it to look at the lyrics and listen to the music at the same time, but tell you what, let's go to the lyrics first. Why am I on lyrics? Because I care. Because I care. Let's see. Okay. Right, track 5. I like the start. This is better. Nice minimal bass. With that cool little phaser bounce sound. And I like here how the drop's being teased. We're not just straight into it. We're not just thrown straight in. That's great. Nice and jazzy. Got a really nice jazzy feel to this one. Those sort of low compressed cymbals and snares. Yeah, there's a nice roll to it. That's so catchy, that sample. If I had another chance, what is it? If I make another wish, I would wish for a wish for you. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Good. This is brilliant. Structurally, this is really, really good. It's certainly not as drawn out as Ooh La La. They've got the tension just right, and I can just hear that bass drum building now before we go into the next verse. I love that. It sounds almost like... Yeah, I was gonna say then. I just heard the swearing. It sounded almost like a clip from like a Queen concert, but it's definitely live footage that they've put in the background. I love the sound of that. Okay, where are we going now? Here we go, verse 2. These lyrics are great. Oh, right, we're going to pause it. I know, like, with 20 seconds off the end of the track. That final verse is so worth that little wait. I mean, I think this is one of the strongest songs on the album. Goonies vs E.T. Silly name, okay, but the substance here and the style, unbeatable in terms of an interesting, dynamic hip-hop track. Some of the lyrics that it sounds so effortless coming from them. The quality of these lyrics, as I said before, there's a poetry to it, like a modern, like a modern necessary poetry in their messaging. There used to be a time I'd see it and not say it. Just that line alone, means quite a lot at the minute about how we need to basically wake up to the injustices and the reality of the situations that we can see people in. Now I understand that woke folk be playing. Ain't no revolution that's televised and digitised. You've been hypnotised and Twitterised by silly guys. Cues to the evening news make sure you ill-advised. Again, there's this distrust about media information that people are exposed to, and he doesn't say which channels, he doesn't say which networks. He says they've been Twitterised by silly guys, and whilst it's not clear, I think we can sort of work out who he's referring to, who these organisations and figures are that have been trying to deceive people or pander to their darker fears and thoughts about other people and society. But like I say, just in terms of delivery, like there's something about the production here where it's made the vocal as clear as possible, even though he's got the speed, even though he's got the power behind the delivery of these words. You can still understand everything that he's saying, not just from a phonological point of view, but also from a meaningful point of view as well. This is not just filler. This is not just we need some words to make up this verse. It's all meaningful, essentially. And it's great, but it's just done so effortlessly, immensely impressive. Always is. Yeah, and then I'm just sort of scanning here. There's a lot of other different references to 80s things, such as like, Beverly Hills, for instance. Yeah, Beverly Hills Cop. But yeah, Goonies versus E.T. What a strong track. What a strong track. Right. We're nearly halfway through. Okay. Right, top chat. It's almost like the revolution is underground, like a planted seed rather than something out in the open. Yeah, possibly. I think people have a bit of a fight on their hands, not a violent one, but it's like Killer Mike was saying about obviously mobilizing, thinking, doing it in a rational, reasonable way, and being prepared. Being prepared to stand up and open your eyes. That goes back to that part about there used to be a time I'd see it and not say it, whereas now, for many people, it is a time to open up. Okay, right. Love that track. Very, very, very strong. We accept the role of the villains because we've been villainized. Stomped to the dirt of the earth, we still arise. In the Terror Dome, another reference. Let me alone as I soliloquize. Wow. Brilliant. Brilliant. Any good deed is pummeled, punished, and penalised. Just from a poetic perspective, the rhyme schemes are on point. The man's a genius. Really, really is. But even if you weren't listening to it for the lyrics, for the vocal, that beat is good enough. Okay. Right. There are a few things more exciting than a spinning wheel, apparently. God, get a life. Right. Walking in the snow. Great bass, great sludgy bass to start this off with. Nice Hitchcock-esque strings, adding that touch of drama. Decent slow beat. Wow, nice. Just sounds so incredibly fresh. I'm literally just sat here, bouncing along, enjoying it. Wow. Okay, so the political commentary obviously carrying on thoroughly through to this track. There's a section here, again, about sort of falling for what you read on the news, what you're exposed to on social media. Hungry for the truth, but you drank the Kool-Aid. There's a line. It ends directly at the edge of a mass grave. That's their design. Funny fact about a cage, they're never built for just one group. So when that cage is done with them and you're still poor, it comes for you. You help to fuel the death machine that down the line will kill you too. Stark imagery. Stark and quite unsettling imagery. And yet I never feel like the cynicism sort of... I never feel as though the cynicism sort of burns or breaks my enjoyment at listening to this music, despite how sort of harsh and gritty some of these verses are, because it feels so because it feels so real and so authentic and so necessary. This music plays a part, doesn't it? It certainly plays a part, and it's a message that doesn't change as well. It just keeps up to date. So we saw that earlier on with like the Twitter references and things. Yeah. References obviously to the Trump campaign here, to the Trump administration, about pseudo-Christians and kids in prisons, which we're going to hear now. Wow. So basically sort of talking about the disingenuous way that religion and other facets of people's identities are used almost to fool them, to make them think and act in the opposite way that those apparatuses teach and encourage. This album's asking people to wake up and to ask more questions of themselves and the world around them, and that's never a bad thing. Yeah, I agree, Liquid Jim. Definitely a more serious track. Right, we need to stop it there. So yeah, as my friend is alluding to on the live chat there, this is a much more serious chat. There's nothing flippant here about it, and yet, like I say, the sort of cynicism doesn't make it unlistenable or unlikable. It just feels necessary. These are voices that we need to have, that we need to listen to, that we need to understand. I just want to find that one particular section there because it's as relevant as it's ever going to be to current events. So is this Killer Mike's? I think it's Killer Mike's verse. Yeah. Okay. So so verse 2, Killer Mike's talking about the people in charge of the system, essentially. As we know, Killer Mike has and Run the Jewels as well, by extension, have their kill your masters sort of mantra and slogan as well. And it is also the name of one of their songs, Report to the Shareholders / Kill Your Masters. Now, again, they're artists. It's not literal. Obviously, they promote and encourage voting. They encourage fair and peaceful protests. They encourage people the right to have their rights and to stand up for them. Fair enough. Completely fair enough. But I suppose it's the presentation that some people might have an issue with, is what I'm saying. In terms of some of the word choices, some of the language, and the sort of cynical air that this could have if this were in a less accomplished artist's hands, and it's quite clearly not. Because if you read this verse, then you can't argue with it. Musically, you can't argue with it. That's as strong as it could be. Vocally, brilliant. Lyric-wise, okay? They promise education, but really they give you tests and scores, and they're predicting prison populations by who's scoring the lowest. That's scary. Rooted in some kind of reality. And usually the lowest score's the poorest, and they look like me. And every day on evening news, they feed you fear for free. And you so numb, you watch the cops choke out a man like me, until my voice goes from a shriek to a whisper, I can't breathe. When will it end? When will this end? This wasn't written after this recent murder of a black man by a police officer. This wasn't written after it. This was written before it. This could have been written a year before it, 2 years before it, 5 years before it. It's an event that just reoccurs, that repeats itself, that gets worse. It's startling. And when the music sort of cuts out for Killer Mike to say that line, "I can't breathe," when he whispers it, it's almost like, it feels like a tribute. We get the silence. We don't get any music behind that point. We just get the whisper of, "I can't breathe," which is what a man said as he was being killed at the hands of systemic racism. It's enough to stop you in your tracks. So in terms of their social commentary, in terms of their knowledge and understanding of the events that matter to them and should matter to other people, Run the Jewels are the one. They're always reliable, always accountable, always ahead of the curve. Excellent. And yet, it's not their duty to bring this to light. It shouldn't be their duty. They're entertainers, first of all. They shouldn't also then have to be, they shouldn't have to feel like there's this responsibility or burden on them to do this. But obviously, with their audience, with their reach, it's certainly helpful. It's certainly relevant and useful at a time like this to have artists that are engaged. And this cynical sort of air that I've been exploring and talking about over the last 10 minutes or so, it doesn't feel patronising, it doesn't feel watered down, it doesn't feel washed out or cliched. It's as though it's given to you on just a human level. These words, these ideas. You've been robbed of your empathy, replaced with apathy. I wish I could magically fast forward the future, so then you can face it and see how messed up it'll be. This suffering is real. These feelings are genuine and regular. I'm just sort of flicking through the words again because excellent wordsmiths, the pair of them. I'm not so sure opportunity's knocking. It's probably the law. That's a great bit of wordplay that sums up the situation, isn't it? We've got the outro here by Gangsta Boo, not an artist that I've heard of, if I'm being honest. But it was quite a quick, piffy way to end the song anyway. Okay, yeah, this is one of my favourite tracks off the album. This is Just featuring Pharrell Williams and Zach De La Rocha. I remember there being quite a lot of good, memorable, strong lyrics on this one. This is it. Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar. Again, I'm not the strongest voice to talk to these issues. I'm not exactly here for that. I'm just here to talk through the album. But you can't ignore a refrain like that in a chorus. Just reading the lyrics. Yeah, I mean, he does. There are some quite hard-hitting words and accusations and ideas being thrown around on this one. Again, the sincerity factor much higher on this track. I think the percussion is really, really good. I certainly like the sound, the style of it. I really like that sub bass, nice and soft. It's got like a nice smooth core, but it's sort of glitchy on the margins, with a bit of a trap beat with those hi-hats. A nice bit of a trap touch there as well. Yeah, and there was that line I wanted to pull out about the rumba. Where is it? Saying that his brain bounces off the walls like a sentient rumba. Good line. Yeah, and another one of the one of LP's verses there, talking about murderous chokehold cops still earning a living. Timely. It's sad actually. It's no good just saying, "Oh, how relevant," and sort of applauding its, its modern day links and implications and stuff. It's actually quite sad. Very sad. A murderous chokehold cop is exactly the type of person that committed that atrocious act less than 2 weeks ago. And he's saying here how it's not an anomaly. Yeah, a quick... right, so that track's over, and we're back to the cat lottery, where you can win a cat, if you're lucky. Yeah, I mean... They're not messing around on this album. It is quite a short album, even though my commentary's, quite long on it. Right, come on, let's go for that. Let's go to the chat. Change will only be a reality when artists don't need to reference these awful events. Good. Yeah. No, I agree. I think that would be a good indicator of it, is when entertainment can just focus on its entertainment value. But I don't think we'll ever reach that point, and so it is the duty, isn't it, of artists such as Run the Jewels to do this. I think on a superficial level, at least, I think that's why a lot of white people feel that hip hop doesn't speak to them directly. It's because it's about experiences that are alien to them. That's just a theory, just an idea. I'm not sure whether that's accurate, whether it holds water. But it's just like literature, isn't it? Literature written by people with different perspectives, from different with different upbringings and from different places as you. The wider range of art that you are exposed to in the world, the sort of the wider, the richer, the more the greater your understanding is of the world. And you cannot deny these beats. As I said before, just musically, it's fresh, it's strong. They always deliver. It's very, very dynamic. It's very pleasant to listen to on the ear. This album. Okay. Even just the first few notes of this Never Look Back are great. Very, very intriguing. I think that's why Rick and Morty used them. We'll just start that one again. I think that's why Rick and Morty used one of their tracks. Is this cool, sort of almost spacey, this spacey aspect to their music. Always paint wonderful. I won't say sort of neon drenched, but they are bright and colourful, aren't they? The soundscapes created on Run the Jewels albums. but they retain that griminess. Here's a good example, the start of this track. So a fun little sort of minor bass line that sort of bobs around. Nice bit of synergy with the LP Killer Mike vocals. A beat that's still forming, it's still in the process of coming into being. Yeah, this is like sort of chill out music, but with an edge. This is music for clubs, I think. Funny lyrics again. Just enjoying the lyrics. Killer Mike certainly keeps it 100. That is true. Yeah, I felt on earlier listens that the chorus could have had a little bit more spice to it. I know the track's quite minimalistic in nature, but I think we could have had a bit of a spike there, you know, just to lighten things up a little bit. Oh, that's nice. I like that comment on the chat. Like an 80s Stranger Things-esque sample in the background there. Yeah, definitely. Definitely some Stranger Things vibes. Yeah, I like that. And I like how this return to the verse has been freshened up with the shakers, with the shakers there. I agree. Ant off 6. The beats are strong. Very strong. Yeah. There's one track I'm really looking forward to. If you've already heard the album, then you'll know which track it is. Actually, there's 2. 10 and 11. Both of those tracks. Excellent. Really looking forward to them. I don't know. I mean, Never Look Back, yeah. It sounds more like the start of a chorus, doesn't it? And then it ends with that bell. Okay, right, we've got 3 tracks left. Okay, just before we do those 3 tracks, I just want to go to the chat. Okay? I'm going to write what do you think of the album so far? Because we've heard 8 tracks. And I think it's been really, really fresh. I think it's fresh. I think it's enjoyable. I think lyrically it's an absolute treat. I think the subject matter is tense. I think the delivery is taut. As a complete package, I think it's very, very accomplished. And yeah, I just think it's really, really strong. It's really enjoyable. It feels very accessible, despite the subject content, which could be too much for some people. Even that, I think, is handled still in quite an accessible and tasteful way. Yes, there are images that jump out at you to get your attention. Good, that's what it's there to do. That is what the band do well at. In terms of the instrumentation, in terms of the samples, in terms of the general production by this from LP, I think it's really, really strong so far. So yeah, no, I've definitely enjoyed it. I can have this on as a reliable modern hip-hop album pretty much any day of the week, I would say. I'm just waiting for people to give me some kind of response. Let's ask Liquid Jim, because he seems to have really enjoyed it. Let's go back through the chat a little bit. Winner cat. That's strange. Yeah. Winner cat indeed. Okay, right. Liquid Jim says, very strong. Yeah. It feels like a part 2 to Run the Jewels 3. You could mix this and that album together and the quality will be completely consistent. Yeah. 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 Good comment. It'd be awesome for some of these tracks to be on GTA 6. Oh, yes. I agree. Especially if some of the rumours are true that it will be set in Vice City. I think some of these tracks would be good for maybe cutscenes, for intros, for outros, for credits, for a trailer. Would be great. And I've not watched the show Ozark yet, but I do believe that one of the tracks of this album was used in that. Shall we spoil it for ourselves? Shall we see if I type in Run the Jewels and Ozark? Run the Jewels. Yeah, so Oh La La was used in the season 3 finale of Ozark, a show that I've not watched yet. I'm sure it will be quite good. I'm sure it'll be quite good. But that speaks to the quality and the craftsmanship of Run the Jewels, is that they can create these cinematic hip-hop songs. Hip-hop, normally you think more sort of like low-quality, lo-fi production, you know, more sort of garage setups and turntables and inputs and more of a plug-in-and-play vibe rather than something that's polished and perfected. They create these brilliant cinematic sounds and songs, ones that have stories, ones where they take on characters, ones where they take on different voices, ones where it's almost like I don't know how they do it really, but I know Liquid Jim and Ant FL6 should hopefully understand when I say this. It's as though they can create lighting within the sound of the songs. One moment it feels very, very dark and ambient, and then the next we get sort of almost like, I don't know whether it's my exposure to the artwork here, but almost like you get sort of these pointillistic splashes of pink and purple, these neon sort of strobes that just flicker in and out, that slowly swell and then dissipate. Yeah, they create lighting in songs. That's my 2 cents anyway. I don't really know. Okay, let's have a look. Liquid Jim. Yeah, man. It's like the bright pink is almost hinting at that. Yeah. I think that's because they're very media savvy. They're very image conscious. Every single Run the Jewels album features the same 2 hands facing each other, doesn't it? The one that's making a fist and the one that's almost doing like a gun type shape. But it's just the sort of surfaces that change, which I think is quite a nice analogy for Run the Jewels themselves. Is that you always get a strong, reliable center. It's just the means and the surface that alter slightly to give a different air, a different tone, a different feel, a different angle on a partnership, on a duo, on an artist that are rock solid, that are consistent, that are solid, that work together so well. They're great, aren't they? They are great, and this is not just fatuous praise for its own sake. I think Run the Jewels are one of the most relevant, like, duos, we'll call it duos, of the last, say, 20, 30 years. I can't think of that many others, really. and not just for a hip hop band, but for a group in general. You know, they stagger their releases. They clearly take their time. Let's have a quick look on the comments, and we're going to do the last 3 tracks. I'm enjoying it as it is, says Ant46. I'm going to put it on through the headphones at a later date and really dissect it. The lyrics that I'm hearing are great. Absolutely, yeah. So that's my initial cursory listen to the album. It's just sort of spotting the odd lyric and going, oh, that's great. I want to talk about that later on when I go live. I'd love to see you drive past belting these tunes out. Yes. It sounds like it is foreshadowing recent events, yeah. But the sad reality is that this is the daily life and struggle of these guys. Yes, I mean, I think that's what some journalists and some reviewers are going to say, possibly by accident, is that the lyrics foreshadow these things and going, oh, it's as if they knew, but that's not the case, is it? This is just a regular aspect in people's lives that isn't always reported or seen. You know, if the ridiculous advances in technology have given us one thing that's positive, it's that there are more reportings, there's more evidence of these occurrences. There are elements on their other albums too. I get that, like a display of colour through sound. I'll go back to that. I love the iconography, the visuals. I like respect versus disrespect. Yeah. The art style changes more each time. Each art style feels slightly more refined than the last album. Yeah, I think on the subject of them refining their craft, I think we see that quite a bit in the tightness, in the tautness of the tracks. A lot of the tracks are very, very short, and yet there's more to say for this review. Meaning this review is longer because of. This review is longer than the actual album itself because there's so much to say about it. Right, anyway, I'm going to get on to the next track, okay, which is called The Ground Below. And then we're going to get on to my the 2 tracks that I really, really like listening to on the album. Right, let's start. The Ground Below. Love that. And also, it's the variety, it's the diversity of the instrumentation as well that keeps it fresh, that keeps it unpredictable. Because you can hear guitars here now, you can hear sort of scratchy, almost punky garage rock guitars doing a descending melody. There's like siren-esque effects as well in the background. Oh, I like the reverb and the echo on his vocal in the chorus here. Yeah, nice. Wow. I'm just enjoying listening to it. Very, very enjoyable. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. That's a great comment. I'm going to let this song run out, though, before I go to it. Oh, man. That chorus is great, isn't it? I like that sort of... the tenacity of that snare roll. It's really cool. Right, I've got to talk about this this comment now. Yeah, nice that. Again, direct, dynamic, snappy, to the point, and yet a fascinating listen. But then there's this comment here. You ready? Are you ready for this comment? Okay. The Ground Below, best track so far. Kind of Fat Man Scoop, bouncy. Yeah. Fat Man Scoop. Fat Man Scoop. Fat Man Scoop. What year is it? 2020? Yeah. And we're still discussing the artist formerly known as Fat Man Scoop. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It's playful, this track. It's playful, it's edgy. Feels thought out, though. Feels more thought out than a Fat Man Scoop track. Let's be honest. Oh god. A bit of a cross with Indian rap with those guitar elements in there. The riff is almost like K-rock. Oh yeah. I agree. Well, look, these guys are dynamic. They've done great collaboration tracks with other artists. They prove themselves time and time again of being capable of so many different genres, so many different types of music. I think that was a nice little track. It cleanses the palate before the outro. Anyway, right, track 10, an interesting track. It's called Pulling the Pin, featuring Mavis Staples and Josh Homme. Now, I had to look this person up. Just being honest. Mavis Staples. Okay, so she is an R&B and gospel singer. Says here she's also a civil rights activist. A lot of people were really, really excited and intrigued to see that she had been used on a Run the Jewels album, because obviously the weight that she brings to this as a prominent voice for civil rights, as a prominent voice in the African American community, upscales the track and brings it some credibility and sort of, it almost gives Run the Jewels themselves some like more credibility in terms of voices that are standing up for the disenfranchised. So I'm going to try and hopefully listen out for her section. It's the other featured artist on this track that I do know more about, and that is Josh Homme. Josh Homme. Oh, I'm looking at Ant F06's comments here. Josh Homme. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. Yeah, well, as well as LP being one of the producers, we've also got Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age on here. His work on this track, before we play it, is brilliant. Haunting, distant vocals, brilliant guitar lines, and again, talking about these collaborations, it feels accomplished. It feels thought out. There's nothing about this that's tacked on. It's not cheap like some mixtapes that artists occasionally throw together and hurl out there into the ether for people to consume. This is an inspired collaboration. This is proof of both of their genius. Josh Homme's vocal of Queens of the Stone Age fame. Yes, Liquid Jim, yes. Yeah. Queens of the Stone Age. Right. Let's listen. It's called Pulling the Pin. Right, so even just those first 10 seconds, it has a desert rock atmosphere. You can hear involvement. He's one of the featured producers, if I didn't already say that, on this album. So I think he helped produce this track, at least. So we have like some cymbals, some banging, some vocal droppings echoing out across the studio. And then we come in with that nice Bowie-esque synth in the background. That almost Arctic Monkey style stomp in the percussion, where the analog meets the digital in a very, very nice, pleasing way. Oh, I like the blippiness of that electronic bass that just scuttles over the tracks. This is the best track so far. Big fan of this. Yeah, it's great. Nice elements of guitar, synth, like a country western cyber duel. Nice. Thank you for those comments. Helped me out a lot. These lyrics are brilliant. Ooh, right. Okay, right. So that's first one. That's LP's first there. I'm just having a quick look on Genius here. Apparently this song is about the evils of capitalism and how we can bring about change in our society, as implied by the title and chorus. Yep, so obviously that's a theme that's permeated throughout the whole album, is this tension, this desire to want to break free and achieve what is rightfully yours in some way, what you're entitled to, that isn't a lie, that isn't artificial or handed to you based on matters that you have no control in anyway. Says here, we do this by first realising the powers around us and then by moving ourselves to action. So again, it goes back to the video for Ooh La La, doesn't it? This idea of things breaking down and some kind of peaceful, positive revolution starting. Okay, right. You will not travel towards the light if they're in charge of your departure. You'd think the universe forgot us the way the cursed pitch their product. Woo! As though our spirit's not a fire that can't be snuffed or turned to dollars. Again, this goes back to this idea that we were talking about much earlier on in this review, that things can be monitored, monetized, measured. Right, let's go back to the track. Yeah. You can hear Josh Homme's influence here, obviously. This is a brilliant verse. One of the most impassioned on the album. Here we go. Here's Mavis's chorus. There's a grenade in my heart and the pin is in their palm. Wow, that vocal is torn. Wow. You don't get that kind of sound by faking it, do you? That's a person that's experienced suffering. The rhythm on Killer Mike's verse, superb. Why must I be miserable? The devils, they do the despicable. And still they move like they're invincible. These filthy criminals sit at the pinnacle. These rhymes are explosive. More Mavis would have been good on this track. Maybe another segment. Yeah, I agree. Possibly like a spoken word piece, maybe. To extend that credibility. To give her cameo more weight, more substance. Oh, nice. Static in my mind. Like Sanity on Borrowed Time. This is a great track. This is one of my favourite tracks of the year. Wow. And again, musically, a really, really nice, interesting, enigmatic blend of genres. You can't just pin this down, so to speak, and say, oh, it's just one thing or the other, because no. Great tracks transcend their boundaries, don't they? Okay, now we're on the final track. Final track? Wow. I don't know if it's gone fast, gone slow. Hopefully, people have enjoyed this. They return to this and go, oh, yeah. Very good. But yeah, such a dense album in more ways than one. We can't unpack all of the words here. It'd be silly to try and do. And as I said, I wouldn't be the best person to try and do that. But certainly we can appreciate and enjoy and discuss the album and some of the ideas that the album raises. So here we go, here's the final track. A few words for the firing squad. This song builds so well. I'm in love with you, it's my only grace. Wow. Got those nice wailing horns in the background. Just reading the lyrics. Okay. Just going to stop to have a quick look at the live chat. Gorgeous sax introduction there. Yes. Yeah, no, the build-up is brilliant on this track. I'd love to dissect the words a little bit more. I'm in love with you is my only grace. I really like that one. It just stands out. Just nice standalone lyrics like that. I'm in love with you, it's my only grace. You know how everything can seem a little out of place? All of my life, that seemed to be the only normal state. So feeling normal never really meant me feeling sane. And being clear about the truth and being sane have never really been the same. Great. It's the relatability that I like. It's the inclusivity. I used to want to get the chance to show the world I'm smart. Isn't that dumb? They've got this. I don't know whether I'll be able to sort of articulate it now, but they seem to have this brilliant thing about subverting expectations, and not in a Star Wars Last Jedi thing. But they seem to work really well lyrically, musically, visually, ideologically, with this idea of opposites. We've always got cause and effect. We've always got one thing and then a reaction to it straight away. Even in the most minute details of theirs. So, I wanted to show the world that I'm smart. Isn't that dumb? And it's just a little throwaway, humorous remark, but we've always got this contrast, this conflict between different elements in their music. Which I think, even at a most superficial glance, is shown by them as characters themselves, you know. On the face of it, they are an unlikely hip-hop duo, but they find they find the core that works with them, I suppose. I suppose that's what I've been trying to articulate for the last maybe 20 minutes, is that there's this core to them and to their perspective that is unchanging, that is communal, that is utopian almost. And it's just the things that orbit around them which are at odds, which is like the sort of the raw material of their work and of their focus. Because they've always got this sort of back, like, to and fro ideology, idea, this theme of opposites always going throughout their work. I reckon if you took any one of their songs, you'd find this, what I'm talking about, this sort of bounce back idea. So I suppose a lot of their work deals with opposites, obviously, you know, rich and poor, black and white. A lot of wordplay as well. When my mother transitioned to another plane, I was sitting on a plane. So again, that could be talking. That's probably talking to the idea that, you know, the sort of the commercial and superficial aspect of Killer Mike's life there. The fact that he's on a plane because of his sort of jet-setting, interesting career, and he's in that location, and yet whilst he was there, that's when his mother moved on. But he's using that wordplay with the word plane to show this. To show that disparity. Yep, there, references to problems in America, the same children that you love and adore, the court will use to break and rob you. Yeah, and maybe that one little line there that I can lift out maybe sums it up. Black child in America, the fact that I made it, it's magic. Yeah, this this idea, this opposition, this conflict idea, that he seems himself as like he sees him and his success as a miracle almost, something that shouldn't have happened, but he's fought against it. He's found a way to make the two meet. You know, his own personality in a world that doesn't want him and his perceived type, possibly. Yeah. When they got you feeling like a fox running from another pack of dogs. Wow. Wow. Excellent. You know what? I'm sure there's going to be much more eloquent and insightful videos than mine that can unpack all of this lyricism, because the songs deserve it. In fact, the album demands it, doesn't it? You can't just pass over some of these lyrics in the way that we might be doing now. But yeah, what a brilliant image. They've got you feeling like a fox running from another pack of dogs. I like that idea of status there, that the fox should be the more rabid one, possibly. The rabid, untrustworthy one. Whereas a dog, as we know, is man's best friend. And yet in this situation, the reverse is. Anyway, right. I'm just talking. For the truth tellers, tied to the whipping post, left beaten, battered, bruised. For the ones whose body hung from a tree, like a piece of strange fruit. My last words to the firing squads was, and then we know what it's going to be. Yeah, we're just entering that instrumental break now that builds things up again. It's the stoicism that's admirable, and the resilience, but at no point is dignity lost in this pursuit of trying to get your dignity. You know, it's funny how many people are willing to shout and make these horrible claims that, oh, you're not dignified, you're not civilized, and yet one look at their behaviour would prove that it's actually them, isn't it? Yeah, this gorgeous ambient jazzy cloud that we disappear into the end still feels raw, still feels fresh. The nice rolls off of that jazzy analog drum kit. Let's just go to the chat. That crackling radioactive violin. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's all sort of fizzing up, isn't it? And crackling, and has that genuinely ended with Pinky in the Brain? That's awesome. Yeah, well, it's Yankee and the Brave, isn't it? Yeah, so this is like the Yankee and the Brave reprise. This is the story of a couple of small-time hustlers, framed by crooked cops and forced to make a run for their lives. Yeah, so this last bit here says, they ain't friends exactly. These guys have a better chance of killing each other than beating the odds. No, sir, they're brothers. And when the chips are down, I really don't think you want to bet against Yankee and the Brave. Okay. Right then. Well, that was Run the Jewels 4 by Run the Jewels. I've really enjoyed this. I've enjoyed listening to it again. I've enjoyed interacting with my little comment box here. Yeah. Pinky in the Brain. Pinky in the Brain. Okay, right. Overall thoughts then. I want to hear... I'm going to just type that there. They can hear it, but I'm going to put overall impressions, question mark. Yeah, for me, solid. Absolutely solid. An interest. I think it's an interesting, necessary, vital release. Vital in many ways. Vital in two main ways, I would say. I think with their instrumentation, with their production, I think they're proving themselves to be a vital sound in the modern hip-hop landscape in a time when we have this notion of mumble rap, when we have silly discussions and arguments about more hardcore styles of hip-hop and rap. And I think Run the Jewels make their case for a much more produced, polished and perfected sound that never loses its grittiness or its realness in terms of the elements that they like to play with and enjoy playing with. So I think musically, so interesting, so dynamic. The range of genres that they're able to bring into their world and encompass, and the fact that for the most part they don't stretch these genres too thinly. They for the most part, they know how long a piece should last. They know how to build tension in a song. They know how to make it feel cinematic and visually. It's a very strong album, as we alluded to earlier on, with the different color palettes that they seem to be playing with, that they're able to sort of paint in the listener's mind. And then vital for the second reason, obviously, it's lyrical relevance and their messaging being so on point. Their wordplay is hilarious. They're like, return to just any track and just listen to the rhyme scheme and how they're able to hold that rhyme scheme and that rhythm for so long across maybe 8, 16, even 24 bars at a time. They're able to replicate and keep that same momentum going, and yet finding new and interesting ways to vary their words and their rhymes. Absolutely fascinating, interesting, and innovative stuff. And then naturally we've got all the things that relate to recent events, which, as we've discussed, are events that aren't recent for most people. So it's a timely yet timeless release. I think I said that earlier on. And they certainly play a vital role in hip-hop's modern pantheon when it comes to standing up for these ideas. And I think they do so, on the whole, in a generally quite wholesome and tasteful way. Yes, there are swear words. Yes, there are. That's just a part of the genre. And it's just a part of it. But the imagery, the references to real life events, they're stark and necessary reminders of why and how things need to change, basically. But yeah, I think this is one of the first times I've really listened to them where the vocals have demanded my attention as much as the music itself. And I think we said this again earlier. If you didn't like one aspect of the album, there's definitely something else for you as well. So overall, from me, like there's a few little dips on the album where I feel like they lose that creativity just a tad. Where I feel like some parts are a little bit too long or overplayed, but at no point does the album resort to gimmicks, to silliness. The collaborations feel very inspired, especially the Josh Homme and the the Josh Homme track and the Mavis Staples track, Pulling the Pin. That's brilliant. The final track's excellent, and I thought the singles were very strong as well. So overall, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's really, really solid. Liquid Jim says 10 out of 10. Everything I anticipated, everything I wanted. I can't wait to slap this bad boy on when the mood permits. Yeah, absolutely. I've dipped in and out of it, and obviously I've just listened to it again here. But this would sound excellent for a decent sound system. Liquid Jim again saying varied, diverse. Some tracks are comical. Yes, yeah. So the first track has its comedic elements. The last track, like the reprise of the last track. Some of the wordplay is really good. Ant F06. Not my usual listening, but thoroughly enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's something I will listen to often, but it will definitely get played again when I can take my time. Yeah, sure. Defo, keep these going, Stereola. It's going to be really cool when we have other internet peeps getting in on the discussion. Yeah. Right, Liquid Jim's giving us his top 3. Goonies vs E.T. Yep, I agree. The Ground Below. Yeah, pulling the pin. I think top 3 for me, Goonies vs E.T., Pulling the Pin, and let's have a quick look. I quite like Yankee and the Brave as a nice strong opener, to be honest. But and the final track as well. A few words for the Firing Squad. So it's a top 4 for me. Top 4. A few words for the Firing Squad. Pulling the Pin. Yankee and the Brave. And Goonies vs E.T. Yeah. Okay, right. I'm going to end it here. Thank you very much if you've been following this live or if you're watching it after the fact. But yeah, if you have any suggestions for what I should review next, then please let me know. This has been Stereola Music Reviews doing Run the Jewels 4. Take care, stay safe.